I still believe the person most impacted by suicide is the person who commits suicide. A lot of people think, oh, well, the poor family. What about the person that took their life or that tried to take their life? Understanding the pain, I think people don't really do.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors and ideators so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, many millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. And when we do talk about it, when we do engage with other people in pain or distress or despair, we're not very good at it. Let me clarify, actually, we suck at it. Most of us really, really do. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations and hopefully better conversation with survivors, in large part to help more people in more places feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. That is the goal. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. Right now, what we are focusing on, far more than anything else, is the tour. There's other stuff, but right now it is the tour. It is putting the tour together, and it is raising money for the tour, for the film, and some other related initiatives. If you want to help, if you can help, please help. The link to make a tax-deductible donation is in several places. It is givebutter.com/suicide noted. I get it if you can't, or even you don't want to, but it will help a lot. Finally, we are talking about suicide on this podcast. My guests and I don't typically hold back, so please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today I am talking with Karla. Again, yes, it's an update episode. Karla lives in Texas, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Karla in Texas. You know, when we first talked was June of 2022.
It's been some time. So much has happened in my life since then.
And we will talk about at least some of that, I hope.
Yeah.
If you're listening out there, this is an update episode, which means there was an original episode, and we're not redoing the original episode. We'll touch on some stuff, but it's episode number 113. Thanks for talking with me again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
In the little blurb in the beginning of your episode, you talk about depression and ideation, and there was one thing you said that really, really stuck with me. You said something about walking through the fire and how you're living in the fire. Remember that?
I don't, but that does sound like something I would say.
Where are you now? If we're continuing with the fire metaphor.
I feel like I'm in the smoke. Not necessarily in the depths of my depression, though that's still kind of a regular theme in my life. But I'm medicated, I'm seeing a doctor. Despite all of the shitty things that happened to me over the last few years, I feel like I'm in a much better place, though I had to get through some pretty low lows to get here.
Still in Texas?
Still in Texas, to my own dismay. Hopefully not for too much longer. But my family's here, and my husband lives here with me. We're going through immigration process for him, so we kind of feel like it's best to stay put until that is kind of taken care of. But yeah, the dream is to move to Colorado. We love the mountains, and I spend all of my free time out there.
Do you, what part of Colorado do you know?
I like Boulder just because it's a little more diverse towns. The little mountain towns aren't very diverse, and I'm Hispanic, Native American, and my husband's Turkish, so we kind of want a little bit of a diversity.
You got yourself a Turkish guy?
I did. We met on Tinder.
The Turkish Tinder. I love it.
The Tinder Turk, yeah.
Since we talked in 2022, have you tried to take your life?
Yes, twice.
Twice. When we talked, how many times had you tried to take your life up until that point?
I don't remember. I'd had like one solid attempt, and then everything else had been ideation, like heavy, very strong ideation. But
how old were you, or for how long had you been ideating, or have you been ideating? Is it like a lifelong thing?
Yeah. I mean, as long as I can remember, I had a really rough childhood, and then just navigating this world as an adult, as an autistic adult, has been really challenging for me. I've had a lot of support, but when you enter like a professional workspace where most people you work with are not neurodivergent, they're neurotypical. This is a very isolating experience. And so my work, by and far, I think contributed to a really deep, depressive episode that lasted for a long time. I work in advertising now. I was in the fashion industry before. I would say like 80% of the people I work with are neurodiverse. So it's a just very different work environment. I don't feel as much of an outsider now as I did before.
That's got to help.
Yeah, it's big time change.
Had you had any hospital stays, whether it was related to that first attempt or whenever else in your life?
No, not I wasn't committed to the hospital. I did take myself to the hospital. I didn't tell them why I was there. I just experienced a really traumatic loss. My grandmother was hit and killed while crossing the street on her wheelchair. And I was in Colorado for like personal reasons. And then that happened. It was probably the most painful thing I've ever been through because she raised me. She was my mother. I felt like I was having a heart attack when I was at work. So I drove myself to the hospital, and because I knew if I was left alone, I was going to do something serious to myself. I thought like the better thing to do in this situation was to go to the hospital because I was in so much pain from the loss of my grandmother that I didn't want to intensify the loss for anyone else by taking my own life. So that was the second attempt.
Okay. How old were you for the first attempt? Before we talked for the first time?
I think I was 27, 28.
20s,
I'm
mid-late.
34 now.
So that would have been a few years prior to when we talked. And the math of it all
Mhm.
doesn't matter so much, but just so I and others have some context. I ask these questions that I think are kind of weird. I want to know, I'm curious about people's experience after they talk with me. Did you listen to our episode?
I did.
Do you remember how you felt about hearing yourself talk about this stuff with a virtual stranger?
I felt like it was really strange because it's not something that I have spoken about very much with friends or family, like even my husband. My husband is, for instance, he is neurotypical and he's never had depression ever in his life, which I want to know what that's like.
Me too.
Um, what's it like to be God's favorite? You know what I mean?
Ooh, wait.
Um,
I don't know if we talked about memoir titles 3 years ago, if that's a newer thing for me.
I think we mentioned one last time. I think I said people are not enough.
Oh, but come on. What's it like to be God's favorite? And then something with smoke, if we could add in there, we hit like the gold. I know you're advertising, so you might have some sweet ideas. We'll get to them. It was, you said strange.
It was really strange because I'm like, here I am trusting this stranger
Yeah.
on the internet with my story. Who knows what's really gonna, I mean, I knew you were gonna post it like an episode, but I didn't know if there would be any, backlash or if people that I know would find it. I haven't shared my episode with anybody until recently. I wanted to share with somebody who'd been my support person, just a friend of mine, just a little bit more. I wanted to be vulnerable without having to rehash that whole first, interview period of my life and say, okay, I appreciate your support. And since you want me to be a little bit more open, here's my episode.
I love that. I think it allows people to share stuff, even if they don't want to necessarily personally in the moment, in real life, share stuff.
Yeah.
Just to be, I love that the podcast or the episode offers that. I don't love that people are in pain or all that, to be.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I hate crying, but I cry all the time. I call myself the queen of crying at work because I get overwhelmed. And so I just need to go into the wellness room that they have for us. And I cry there. Having to rehash things is, especially parts of your life where you feel like you've kind of moved on from,
Yeah.
and just brings back feelings that I don't want to confront yet, or I'm not ready to
Yeah.
deal with.
So you had said that you would have been, I think, concerned about backlash, or you didn't. That's one reason among probably others you didn't share it. But then you shared it
Yeah,
with this person or two people recently or more
to
recently.
people.
And what was their response if they told you anything or shared anything with you?
One hasn't shared anything, but my friend who's my support person was really, they felt grateful that I'd at least shared some part of my story with them and that it helped them understand me a little bit more. Yeah, especially in regards to like why I have a service animal and why I'm so kind of hyper vigilant about my current service dog, just because it's kind of like my link to freedom. I don't get to do anything on my own. I have a babysitter all the time. So
Who's your babysitter?
my service animal,
Who's the babysitter, the animal or you?
the dog babysits me.
Wait, what kind of dog is it?
I have a Belgian sheepdog. He's basically a long-haired black Malinois. So they're a variety of Belgian sheepdogs, and I needed a dog that could keep up with my pace of life. I travel a lot, and then something a little less cute. My first service dog was really cute, and I feel like that's kind of why people cross their boundaries with me. He's a little scarier looking.
Yeah.
I get harassed a lot less.
He's got your back.
Yeah.
What's your dog's name?
His name is Pasha.
Pasha the Badass is what I'm calling him.
Yeah. It means general in Turkish.
I love it. Intercultural, inter-animal. It's great.
Yeah, all of his commands are in Turkish, thanks to my husband. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wait, do you know the word for, this is unlikely, I know, the word for suicide in Turkish?
I don't, but I can look it up. I don't think that it's a common, I feel like in Middle Eastern culture, mental health, at least what I've learned from being adjacent to it, is it's not really discussed much. The concept of suicide is pretty foreign, at least amongst Turkish Americans. When I talk to my husband about like, hey, I don't want to be on this planet today, he thinks I'm joking. He's like, how bad can life really be? Then again, he isn't living life the way I am. We watched the new Final Destination the other day. The girls are hyper vigilant about all of these possible scenarios that could happen, and like an axe could fall and it'll hit this person. They'll drop the handle to the lawnmower, which will push this kid into the yard. That's a hypervigilance that I live with 24/7. And so I was like, you see how this girl is afraid of everything? That's how I lived my life. My whole life is Final Destination every single day. That just comes with like pattern recognition, and that the pattern recognition is kind of stressing me out to a point that I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that enough bad scenarios can be linked together to make something really bad happen. At least that's how I feel. And it's exhausting. Yeah, it's kind of a foreign concept for him, but he is supportive and listens, tries to understand to the best of his ability. But like I said, I think because he's never suffered with any depression, I'm sure he says he's been sad, but he's never like been so sad that he didn't want to live.
Sadness is a common human thing. Like clinical depression is different.
I've heard people call it a slower way of being dead. Yeah, because you don't always feel alive. You just feel like you're moving through existence, this plane of existence, but you're not thriving. That's a lot of, the last 3 years of my life. I was just surviving. There was no thriving for me.
And you're aware of it. Like, it's not as if you're not aware, unless you happen to be in a completely zonked out state the whole time, which is not so common. You're very aware of like all the effects that this has.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was just fighting to live the life I'm forced to live. It's just like being a plant that's unwatered, like those agaves in the desert when there's no rain. That's kind of how it felt. Like I was just thriving under neglect of the circumstances of my life. That it's come with a lot of loss in terms of people that I love, but I'm in a much better place now. One, because of medication. Two, I'm seeing a psychiatrist regularly, and I think I have a better support system now than I did 3 years ago.
Can we talk about the two attempts?
Yeah.
So when we talked, it was June of 2022. Again, I'm not married to dates or anything, but just for context. Do you recall about when that first of those two attempts took place?
Yeah, it was in September of 2023. At that point, my grandfather who raised me passed away. He had cancer, so we knew didn't have a lot of time. But I didn't have time to grieve between that and planning my wedding and working. I was in like autopilot. I didn't get to grieve, and at my wedding, I had a horrible time. I was just busy. I was overstimulated. I was busy dealing with greeting the people that were there. And we were all in Colorado, in the mountains near Florissant, which was about 30-minute drive from this pass called it's just a street. It's a mountain that has a one-way road that you could drive up to. It's open 24/7. So it's like a mini Pikes Peak, but it's called the Skyline Drive out in Canyon City, Colorado. And I'd had a horrible time. I had a really serious argument with my husband because he kind of could see that I wasn't having a good time and couldn't really understand why. And I was just done with everything. I was like, if this is how my life is going to be for the next 5 years or 30 years. I don't want to do this. I can't live in a world where everything overstimulates me all the time. I feel like I'm in just survival mode all of the time. And so I drove back to the cabin with my family. I dropped them off and I told them I needed more time, that I was just going to stay in the car because I needed a little space to decompress. And I had them take my service dog inside because I didn't want him to be there with me when that happened. So I drove out to the Skyline Drive and it was closed. So I couldn't get up there to finish my attempt. But that's what stopped that second attempt. I had the full plan to just drive up to the top and jump, and it was closed. So I turned
Oh,
around and went back home, or went back to the cabin without anybody knowing
wow.
what had just happened.
That must feel weird.
Yeah.
Was that how you tried the first time? Before we talked the first time?
The first time my plan was to jump, yes, but didn't have access to anything high enough. I'd witnessed somebody jump from
I
3
remember this.
stories
Yeah, yeah.
and they didn't pass. Instantly they suffered through it. And that was the one thing, is I didn't want to suffer. If I was going to do it, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be done. And that's why I had chosen that Skyline Drive, because it's a mountain. I'm like, for sure this is going to do the job.
I remember there was something connected to your workplace in that window.
Yeah, so I had a service dog that went with me to work, and that made my disability very visible
Yeah.
because people like to think that they're not going to judge their coworkers based on disability. They're not supposed to, at least according to the law, but it made my disability visible. And so I was being bullied by people that I worked with. And then my service dog was assaulted while I was at work. And he defended himself, because if you kick a dog, they're going to defend themselves. I don't know. I don't care what people say. The person was just playing around. He kicked my dog. My dog defended himself, which according to the law, I was forced to retire my dog. But
Wow.
that meant that I had no freedom anymore. I couldn't go anywhere by myself. It took me time. Also, I didn't have the money to fork over like 70 grand for a new service dog.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
The dog is the cheapest part. It's the training that is really expensive. So you pay $6,000 to $7,000 for the dog, and then all of the training that came after. And that was partially why I was like, I'm done. I was like, I can't do this again. And thankfully I had help, but I also am lazy, and my laziness stopped me from finding a place high enough because I didn't have access. I didn't have access to anything. Now I work in a high rise, but I don't have access to the top, and I'm not planning an attempt
Okay.
right now anyway.
So in September 2023, the week or the weekend or right around when you got married.
It was like the next day. It was after my wedding.
And then the next day in Colorado, you take that drive.
Yeah.
And the reason you don't presumably jump, I guess we can't know for sure what you would have done, but you were serious. It sounds like you were serious about it. The reason that doesn't happen is because it was closed.
Yeah.
Wow. How are you feeling when you learn it's closed and you make the decision, I'm going to drive back, and then you're around people and it's your wedding? Like the
Yeah.
combination of that is kind of blowing my mind.
I was just like, you know what? I was like, if this is the universe's way of saying no or not now, then I'll accept it. But that whole trip, that whole experience was ruined for me. I was just so tired of like living and existing and not thriving in any capacity. I think anybody would say you just got married to the love of your life. How do you go from that to wanting to kill yourself? And that goes back to my first statement where I said people were not enough. Wasn't enough for me to want to stay here.
Right. How many people know about that day and what you almost tried?
Just one person. It's my psychiatrist, and that's it. Yeah.
Husband doesn't know.
No,
Well, he won't be hearing this update episode.
probably not. Not for a while.
Did he hear no, and he didn't hear your original one.
No.
So you're married now, 2 years.
Technically 6 years. We had been married. We got married right before COVID, and
Oh,
then COVID kind of killed my ability to have a wedding. Then that happened. The ceremony. Yeah.
so when you get back from your wedding, or even during that time after that near attempt, you're like living life. You have to. On some level, so I know you're not thriving, but you going to work?
I go to work. I'm traveling for work, and that kind of helps keep me busy, I think. I'm the kind of person that always needs to move the goalpost. If I don't do that, I achieve a goal, and then I'm like, what now? Okay, well, if this is all there is to life. I've reached the what now, then why the hell am I here? I'm just here suffering for no reason. But moving the goalposts allows me to distract myself enough to not have to think about, suicide. Well, after that attempt, my grandmother passed and I took myself to the hospital because I couldn't be left alone.
When did your grandmother pass away?
She passed away a year ago. It was probably the most difficult thing I've ever. Last year was the worst year of my life.
When you learned of her death, you said you felt like you were having a heart attack.
Yeah.
You went to the hospital. How long were you there for?
I was in the emergency room probably about 7 hours total.
So they just kind of settled you as best they could?
Yeah, they did, and I'm thankful for it because I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't taken myself there.
Right.
But I went totally alone. I didn't really tell anybody I was going. Part of me I was just like needing help, not really knowing how to ask. Where all I knew is that I couldn't be alone. My husband was working overnight. Me being by myself at that very point was not a safe thing for me to be. And my mind is often not a safe place to be alone. But I need to be alone sometimes just to get my strength back. But at that point, I do have access to a place high enough now. So if I was really serious, I would know where to go.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to at that point. I just not just for me, but I was in so much pain. I couldn't imagine putting my mom through that while she's grieving her own mother or my husband or anybody else. So at that point, the people became enough, but not myself. Like I wasn't enough for myself. It was just not wanting to do that to them.
You said that there were 2 attempts since we talked. The first one was the wedding weekend or the wedding week.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the second one? I missed it. What happened?
The second one was this one for the hospital because I was planning on driving myself to the high rise that I work at.
Ah.
After that, I asked for my access to the top to be disabled. It's been a crazy journey, but I started. People just kept dying around me. After my grandmother, my boss passed away, and then
Wow.
the CEO of the company that I work for, I sat 2 seats down from him. He passes away from an aneurysm overnight. So my doctors put me on Abilify, which has kind of changed my life. I know some people have had bad experiences with it, but it makes the intensity of life less intense, it makes the pain a little less tangible. Now, if people have been living their life like this, my mind is kind of blown because the happy feelings are less intense for sure, but the really low lows don't exist on this medication.
Yeah. You've gotten a taste of how others live. Presumably, if I'm understanding you correctly, like people who are kind of okay. I think on the surface, a lot of people would hear that you're on a medication, by and large, you're doing better. That's a good thing. There are others, because that's what that statement reminded me of. So for me, getting a taste of what I've missed is hard.
Yeah.
Now that people will hear them be like, but at least you're moving in the right direction. Those two things can coexist. Just knowing what you've missed. And I don't think I hear people talking about that very often. I think it's a pretty real and big thing.
I would agree so. I mean, the whole premise of autism, at least for a lot of people, is their inability to regulate big emotions. And that's why sometimes reactions, you're seen as somebody who's overreacting to a very small, minor thing. But I'm not. I'm reacting in the only way my body is designed to react to happy feelings, to sad feelings, to just small, little insignificant things. That is the only way my body knows how to react. And so now being on this medication and realizing that I have been just operating on a level that is kind of barbaric without medication blows my mind. And it makes me sad because for the last, I went 33 years of my life without getting the help that I needed until now. And it comes with side effects. Don't get me wrong. I don't love them. I can't stop shaking my legs to save my life, but I'd rather deal with a shaky leg than deal with the really deep feelings that comes with existing.
That's such an interesting way of phrasing it. I know it's just an expression. I can't stop shaking my legs to save my life. And the first thing I thought of was, it sounds like all of this is saving your life.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's just a side effect from the medication that seems to be helping in some ways. I'm pretty sure back 3 years ago, I didn't have the question around the pink and purple pill. Do you know what that is?
No.
All right. Now I know you don't listen to the podcast. That's okay. Yeah.
I like to listen, but getting sometimes other people's stories kind of trigger me, and so I don't.
Right. So let me ask you the pink and purple pill question. And what this pill does is if you take it, you go to sleep, there's no pain, and you don't wake up, and nobody knows it's a suicide. And you can do whatever you want with the pill. There's no expiration date. We can play with that. But you can take it, you can save it, you can throw it away. I imagine those are the main options. As we talk here in the middle of August 2025, is that what we're in? 2025?
Yeah,
Early afternoon. What do you think you would do with that pill?
I think I'd probably save it.
What do you think you would have done with it 3 years ago when we talked?
I think I would have saved it at that point, but I would have used it by now.
That's what makes it really interesting. So if
Yeah,
you had that pill then, we wouldn't be talking now.
no.
Do you want to be alive
Right now, yeah.
right now?
Right now, yeah. I mean, I have goals. I had surgery in November last year. I had weight loss surgery, so that let me know that I was, at least somewhat willing to keep living. But I had planned my own funeral in the event that I didn't wake up because I have a DNR, and so I planned my own funeral. I didn't want my family to go through having to plan all that stuff. So as a producer, I produced my own. I produced my own funeral. I got the playlist, ordered, put in a pre-order for an urn just in case. I told my family that I wanted to be flushed down the toilet at my favorite national park.
Okay. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, you can't scatter ashes in a national park, but who's going to stop you from dropping ashes down a pit toilet? I don't think anybody will. Kind of crazy way to plan your departure from the earth, but
Write anything down for people to read?
I did not. I just said, "Here's the photos, here's the code, here's all my passwords." So just to make it easy for everyone, I was like, you know what? If I go during the surgery, the best thing I can do for my family is just have planned everything. So all they have to do is pick up the pieces and move forward. But also, just I was almost in a car accident, a really serious car accident in December of last year. My defensive driving skills saved my life and my husband's life. Immediately after that, I was like, I don't want to die. I didn't want to die in that way. So I want to be alive for now. But, I do have instances where I'm like, I'm just tired of this shit, tired of living. And, I've had instances where I'm at the gym because since my weight loss surgery, I've transferred my addiction from food to working out.
Hmm.
And I'm like, why am I at the gym? I don't even plan on living that much longer anyway. I'm on the elliptical or, on the treadmill and I'll have these moments where I'm like, this is a waste of my time. I should just be out there, be at home doing whatever I want because who needs strong legs when you don't exist anymore?
Totally. Yeah, it makes sense. It should be said. I want people to know about this and I want to be talking more about it, even if I'm embedding it as shameless self-promotion. We're coordinating together to bring this sort of national tour. It's not like a rock and roll band in a big caravan or bus. It's just me driving my car, making stops, trying to connect with my old guests or prior guests and whoever else wants to
North American tour.
Yeah, and then just we're talking like we kind of do here, but we're going to tweak it because it's in person, so it's a little different. But nonetheless, you're helping me out, which I greatly appreciate. And there may be some other people I talked to in the past in the Dallas area who are also going to join. So it's going to be cool in Dallas. So one, it's good because you're a producer, so you're like the right person to help me out. I appreciate it. I'm going to tangent a little bit because of some of the things you just said, but I would have asked this question either way. We talked about 3 years ago, so let's use that as the date.
Yeah.
Period of time where we talk again. Now, we will talk again because of the tour, but that aside, if in 3 or so years we talk again as like another update and I message you, email, whatever, are you going to see that email?
Yeah, I plan to, at least for now.
You mentioned earlier about moving goalposts and you said you have goals. What might be different, if anything, in 3 years?
Planning on finishing my master's degree, so that'll be done by then. And finishing my weight loss journey, I want to continue improving my health. It helps with the physical pain that I deal with. So who knows? My husband wants children. I'm open to the idea. I just don't know if I want to bring kids into the world the way that it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some small things. I think my career, I hope to be in a better place. Advertising is a really volatile industry to be in right now, especially with the big mergers and everything. So
What are you getting your master's in?
I'm getting my MBA, an executive MBA.
Damn. I probably asked you about myths or misconceptions. I think I've been asking that question for quite a
Mhm.
while. Don't remember what you said. And I understand that if I'm asking you to think back 3 years ago, it can be hard because it's been a hard 3 years.
Yeah.
That affects memory and other things, I assume. But have your ideas around suicide or suicidality shifted at all in those 3 years?
No, not necessarily. I think obviously the people who are impacted, the most long term are the people who love the person that lost someone. You just because they become a different version of who they are, but that person doesn't get to live on. They don't get to change. They just remain whoever they were when they died. I don't know. I don't know if I believe in a life after this life, but I like to think that I do. I guess the focus is always, like I said, on the people who lose someone. But I think when we think about the people who take their lives, and not feeling sorry for them, but trying to understand them, nobody tries to understand them.
That's what empathy is, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm sure there's research or polls or whatever data out there for this, but if we ask people how they feel about a loss of a loved one who died in an accident or of natural causes, I'm pretty sure they feel differently about that group or those groups and someone who took their own life. I don't think they're treated the same way typically.
Yeah, I don't think so. It wouldn't be in my family. It would be considered a selfish thing to do. And also because people depend on me. And so they'd be like, well, if your family needed you, like, well, how could you be so selfish? But it's like, but you don't get it. It's a heavy way to live. I think if I hadn't been on this medication, I would be planning my next attempt.
Shaky legs may be worth it.
The shaky leg may be worth it. Yeah. They put you on other medication, additional anti-anxiety med, and then another medication that is essentially for people with Parkinson's disease. It helps. And, my kidneys might be hating me right now, but I'm here.
What helps other than your service dog for you to cope or feel better or whatever it may be?
I have friends who also struggle with mental health and mental illness. We became each other's sounding boards. Like, hey, does this make sense? Can you please validate my feelings? I'm being upset over this. And sometimes they'll tell me you're over evaluating what it is, or they'll be like, no, you have a right to be upset or happy about something. So that is really validating. And also I have my husband who, even though he doesn't understand where I'm coming from, he tries to at least do the best he can, which for him is just showing a brighter side, to life. So that helps.
The Tinder Turk.
Yep, the Tinder Turk.
Well, this is a good segue to the memoir title. You said originally we said something about, what was the original one?
The original one was people are not enough. I tell myself that all the time. Like, I love you guys, but this is not enough for me.
Yeah, that's a powerful title. You want to stick with that?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk about a subtitle in 3 years.
Something for the epilogue. Who knows?
Who knows? What else would you like to share, Karla?
I don't know if I'm manic or I'm just I'm on a high. I've had 3 interviews back to back, and that helps me feel like I'm not stuck. The moment I feel like I don't have choice in what it is I'm doing, I tend to panic. Even though I love what I do, I think I need to change it up just a tad bit. And so I'm looking for something that better accommodates my disability in terms of remote work and less travel. Crossing my fingers that one of the 3 sticks. They're all something that I'm looking for. If anyone's hiring a producer and wants to let me work from home.
Update complete.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for catching up with me and for letting me be involved in the show. I think it's going to be exciting, and the farm will be a nice little atmosphere, especially in the fall. Pumpkins and hay out, so it'll be nice.
I'm looking forward to it, man. All right, back to the grind. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. Special thanks to Karla in Texas. Thanks for talking with me again, Karla. If you are a suicide attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. All in on the tour and other related initiatives. You can make a tax-deductible donation at givebutter.com/suicide-noted. The link is in the show notes, in the podcast description, on the website, social media, everywhere. We could really use the help. However you are involved, participate, help us out. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much. I really do. And that is all for this week's update episode. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I'll talk to you soon.